Shalom, Israel. This is a song that I just wrote, and it's dedicated to all the Israelites out there that's waiting for Yahweh to come take us out of this captivity. Here it is. We're praying for salvation to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh. We're ready. Come and get us from this place that you love. 'Cause now we know just sons and daughters of power. We're sorry for the sins we've done against you. Now we keep your laws, your statutes and commandments too. So come and get us from this awful place that you brought us. 'Cause now we know who we are, the sons and daughters of Yahweh. So we go, Shalom, everybody. We the brothers from the General Assembly Church of the Firstborn of Israel, and we out here to the Black and Hispanics, Native American Indians, Seminole Indians, the Puerto Ricans, the Haitians, Jamaicans, just to name a few, who are the 12 tribes of Israel. And we're going to come out of the Bible, which is the Lord's book, and see, thus says the Lord, when he's speaking unto his people. We're going to start in the book of Mark, chapter 12, and verse 29.
Book of Mark, chapter 12, verse 29. And Christ answered him, the first of all the commandments is, hear, O Israel.
You see that? So this is Jesus Christ, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus, but he has a Hebrew name, Yahushua. So the Christ in his time, he said the first of all commandments is what?
Hear, O Israel.
So Christ himself, who was an Israelite of the tribe of Judah, he was sent to the earth by the Most High God, the Father, and he said the first commandment that he taught to his people was, hear, O Israel. So Christ's people are the Israelites, and that's what we come out here to speak to, and speak out of the Bible, the Lord's book, to Christ's people, God's people, the Israelites, the so-called Black and Hispanics. Why do we say so-called Black and Hispanics? Because we all have God-given names. But we go by the names that the nations put upon us in captivity and took away our God-given names. Go ahead.
The Lord our God is one Lord.
You see that? So Christ said the Lord our God is one Lord. There are not many gods. There's one God. So if there's one God, what else is there? Let's get Ephesians chapter 2. Ephesians chapter 2. Because Christ said there's one God. Let's get Ephesians chapter 4, we'll start at verse 1.
The book of Ephesians chapter 4, verse 1. I, therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that ye walk worthy of the vocation wherewith you are called.
So the Most High is sent the brother Paul to the Israelites that was at the church of Ephesus. And he said for the Israelites that was at Ephesus to walk worthy of the calling wherein they were called. Jump down to verse 4.
Verse 4. There is one body.
You see that there is one body. There is one nation of Israel. There's one believer in God's people. That's the Israelites. It's not a rainbow coalition. The Bible says there is one body. Israel is one nation of people. Not many nations mixed with different races, but one nation of people, the 12 tribes of Israel. Go ahead.
And one spirit.
And then there's one spirit. What is that one spirit? That is the spirit of the Most High God through his son Christ. There's not more than one spirit. With that, because with that you get the so-called, what they say, Trinity doctrine that the Romans gave unto the Israelites. That God is three. No, there is one spirit according to the Bible. Go ahead.
Even as ye are called in one hope of your calling.
And then it says, even as we are called in one hope of our calling. What are we hoping for? What is our one hope? Let's get the book of Genesis. What is that, 17? The book of Genesis. What is the one hope that the Israelites is hoping for? The book of Genesis, chapter 17. And we'll get verse. We'll start at verse. We'll jump down. So let's start at verse 6.
The book of Genesis, chapter 17 and verse 6. And I will make thee exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee.
So the Most High is giving us one hope. So he's speaking to Abraham. And when he spoke to Abraham, he told Abraham that he will make kings out of his flesh. Go ahead.
And I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed.
So the hope is the covenant that the Most High promised to Abraham, which was for him and his seed after him. So you got Abraham. Abraham had a son, Isaac. And then, so let's prove that. And we're going to come back here. So let's go to 2nd Ezra. Should be chapter 5. 2nd Ezra chapter 5. About putting by Esau. So we're in 2nd Ezra chapter 3, and we'll jump in at verse 16.
The book of 2nd Ezra chapter 3 and verse 16. And unto him thou gavest Isaac.
So we talking about, let's find out who we talking about. Jump up to 13.
The book of 2nd Ezra chapter 3 and verse 13. Now when they lived so wickedly before thee, thou didst choose thee a man from among them, whose name was Abraham.
So we reading about the covenant that God made with Abraham. And then he said with his seed after him. So is it all races, all nations that came from Abraham, or is it specifically? Go ahead. Jump back down to verse 16.
Verse 16. And unto him.
So and unto Abraham, go ahead.
Thou gavest Isaac.
Thou gavest Isaac. Go ahead.
And unto Isaac also thou gavest Jacob.
And then unto Isaac, Abraham's grandson was Jacob. Go ahead.
And Esau.
And Esau. Go ahead.
As for Jacob, thou didst choose him to thee.
So as for out of the two sons, the Most High chose Jacob unto him. Go ahead.
And put by Esau.
And then put by Esau. So that's why we proven that the covenant was with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Go back to Genesis. So we're in Genesis chapter 17 and verse 7.
And I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed after thee, and their generations for an everlasting covenant.
You see that? So the one hope that we have is the hope that the Most High was going to save Abraham and his seed. So the seed that we hoping to be saving, that we proven, is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Jacob had 12 sons, which are the 12 tribes of Israel. Go ahead.
To be a God unto thee, and to thy seed after thee. I will give unto thee, and to thy seed after thee, the land.
See that? So this is the hope that we have as Israelites. We remember, we hoping and thinking about the covenant that the Most High gave to our grandfather Abraham, that we was going to get a land. So let's go back to Ephesians. Let's go back to Ephesians, because what are we proving? Christ, who came and spake to Israel, he said it is one Lord. So not only if there's one Lord, there's one Spirit. And that Spirit is the Most High God through his Son Christ. And then that one hope is the one hope in the promise of the land that's coming as a reward to everybody that keep the commandments of the nation of Israel. Go ahead.
The book of Ephesians chapter 4 verse 4. Verse 5, one Lord.
So even Paul was teaching the church at Ephesus and Ephesians that there's one hope, there's one Lord. So it never went away. So for the black and Hispanics now today who are called the Israelites to be worshiping any other God than the God of this Bible, we are in sin, and it is called idolatry. For us to be following any other teaching, if you want to say doctrine, if you want to put the name doctrine on it, that's telling the Israelites to keep the commandments, you're going against the God. You're going against God, and that's idolatry. Because there is one Lord, one doctrine. Go ahead.
One faith.
There is one faith. We should be believing in one God, the God of this Bible, not the God of all nations, and the God of this Bible. Who is He? Let's get Joel chapter 2. The God of this Bible. What God should we believe in? Should it be the God that loves all nations? Should it be the God that came for the whole world? Let's get Joel chapter 2 and verse 27.
The book of Joel chapter 2 and verse 27. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel.
See that? So God is telling Joel to teach to the Israelites in his time. Because from Genesis to Revelations, God is always talking about his people, the Israelites. So even Joel in his time, and now us in our time, we're going to come out of the same words, the same teaching, the same faith that our forefathers have, we going to have. And this is the faith that we got to have. Go ahead.
And that, the book of Joel chapter 2 and verse 27. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, and none else.
So this is the faith that we have. The God of this Bible is the God of the Israelites. Who are the Israelites? The so-called black and Hispanics. Because, sister, we ain't black. That's a name, a derogatory name that was put on our forefathers when they got over off the slave ships. But when the original people got off the boats, they went by the name of Judah and Israel. But through time, the same way that we saw the movie Roots, what they do to Kunta Kinte, they beat his name out of him and then changed his name. So what happens when you destroy the ancient? Get Deuteronomy 32. What happens when you destroy the ancient? The doctrine and the belief goes with them. So when they have children, if you teach the children what you want them to know, then the children gonna begin with that. So this is Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 7.
Remember the days of old.
See that as a nation, as black people, what we call ourselves, we ain't thinking about the days of old. We go back, and we acknowledge Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Malcolm X. That is as far as we go. But we don't remember the days before then, when we was called Israelites and we had a land and we ruled the world. So now we got to do this now. We got to remember and think about the days of old. Go ahead.
Consider the years of many generations.
And then we got to think about the years of all the generations that was before us. And those generations, those people were Israelites, and we are their children. So if we are their children, we got to call ourselves by our God-given name, the Israelites, and take upon us the responsibility that's given us, which is to keep the commandments of our power, the God of the heaven and the earth. Go ahead.
Ask thy father.
And then we got to ask our fathers, our forefathers. Well, where are our forefathers? They written in this book. And then we got to let the fathers, which are the elders of our nation, the teachers, teach us about this book and give us the understanding and the sense thereof. So as a nation, we got to come back and then we got to search the things of old. Go ahead.
And he will show thee thy elders, and they will tell thee.
See that? We got to ask our elders, the true elders, the elders that's going to make the sacrifice to keep the commandments, the ones that's going to make the same sacrifice that Christ made. We talking about the elders and leaders and teachers in Israel. That's going to be the good shepherd and not the hireling. Because we got a lot of hirelings in our nation and the world that's only flocking up, that's only over sheep for their benefit or their profit, and not living their life for the sheep or giving their life for the sheep. So we're going to go back to Ephesians chapter 3. Or was it 4? Ephesians chapter 4, because what we established in one faith. The one faith is in this Bible through the understanding of our forefathers. And our forefathers are the Israelites. So that make us Israelites. Ephesians chapter 4, and we'll start at the top of verse 5 again.
The book of Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 5. One Lord, one faith.
So our faith has to be as it is written. So we established the one Lord and the faith that God is our God, the God of Israel.
Sorry.
So being the God of Israel only, that's our God. Go ahead.
One baptism.
And then one baptism. What is the baptism? Is the actual baptism of being dunked in water. And we'll prove that. So let's go to
This, not this.
Acts chapter 8 briefly. We'll jump around. We'll get a little bit of it. So this is the baptism that we got to go through. Because it says one baptism. So this is the book of Acts chapter 8. And we'll jump in at verse 27.
The book of Acts chapter 8 and verse 27. And he arose and went, and behold, a man of Ethiopia, a eunuch of great authority under Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who had the charge of all her treasure, and had come to Jerusalem for to worship, was returning and sitting in his chariot, read Isaiah the prophet. Then the spirit of Philip, go near and join thyself to thy chariot.
You see that? So here it is. Philip is led of that one spirit that Paul was talking about. And with that spirit told Philip to go join himself unto this brother that's reading the Bible. So let's jump down to verse 35.
The book of Acts chapter 8 and verse 35. Then Philip opened his mouth and began at the same scripture and preached unto him Christ.
So Philip taught Christ. Go ahead.
And as they went on their way, they came unto a certain water, and the eunuch said, see, here is water. What doeth hinder me to be
You
baptized?
see that? So Philip and the eunuch is moving in travel, and the brother sees a body of water. He said, what's stopping me from being baptized? Go ahead.
And Philip said, if thou believest with all thine heart, thou mayest. And he answered and said, I believe that Christ is the Son of God. And he commanded the chariot to stand still. And they went down both into the water, both Philip and the eunuch. And he baptized them. And when they were come up out of the water,
See that? So Philip and the eunuch went. So part of that baptism is actually going down into water, that one baptism. Now get Romans 6. Still dealing with that one baptism that the Most High gave to the Israelites, that they must follow, that they must keep. What did we establish in? The Most High dealing with the Israelites and some of the requirements. So Romans chapter 6. Romans chapter 6, and we'll jump in at verse. Let's jump in at verse 3.
the book of Romans chapter 6 and verse 3. Know ye not that so many of us as were baptized into Christ were baptized unto his death?
You see that? So now, that baptism, we have to go down into that water, but now we got to acknowledge that what? We baptized into Christ's death. And what did Christ's death represent? The fact that he died and then rose. So now when brothers actually go down into that water and come up out of, now they gonna live a new life, which is after the commandments of the Most High. Now they gonna live with a new spirit that instead of ignoring the commandments, now they gonna keep the commandments. So it's one Lord, one faith, one baptism. Jump down to verse 9.
Verse 9. Knowing that Christ, being raised from the dead, dieth no more. Death have no more dominion over him. For in that he died unto sin once. But in that he lived liveth unto God. Likewise reckon ye also
You
yourselves.
see that? So that baptism is symbolic, going down into that water, and then now being baptized into Christ's death. Christ died unto sin once. So it says that knowing that Christ being raised from the dead died no more. So now when we come up out of that water, that one baptism, we ain't gonna sin no more. We ain't gonna just willingly break the commandments of the Most High. Who we talking to? The 12 tribes of Israel, the Israelites, who are the so-called black and Hispanics. So that baptism that we have in Christ is supposed to give us a spirit that now we're gonna walk without sin. So let's go back to Mark chapter 12 and 29. Because who did Christ come to? Christ came to the 12 tribes of Israel. And Christ taught the commandments. We're talking about the Christ, not the European, but the man of color. Because Christ was a man of color. This is Mark chapter 12 and 29.
And Christ answered him, the first of all the commandments is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord.
You see that? So the Lord our God is one Lord. So now go to Jeremiah 26. So now that we know that Christ was dealing with the Israelites and that we got one Lord, let's see what the Most High had to say to the Israelites. This is Jeremiah chapter 26 and 2.
The book of Jeremiah chapter 26 and verse 2. Thus said the Lord, stand in the court of the Lord's house.
So that's what we do. We standing in the court of the Lord's house. Who's the Lord's house? It's talking about Jerusalem, but now it's the Israelites. So wherever Israel is, we're going to stand. Go ahead.
And speak unto all the cities of Judah.
And we're going to speak to all the cities, the neighborhoods, the communities of Judah. Go ahead.
Which come to worship in the Lord's house.
And which come to worship. Everybody that say they believe in God. All the Israelites that claim that they follow the Most High, that they believe in Christ, that they are keeper of his commandments. Go ahead.
All the words that I command thee to speak unto them, diminish not a word. If so be they will hearken and turn every man from his evil way.
So now being an Israelite, the Most High is saying we got to hearken. And every man has to turn from his evil way. Go ahead.
That I may repent me of the evil, which I propose to do unto them because of the evil of their doings. And thou shalt say unto them, thus said the Lord, if ye will not hearken to me to walk in my law, which I have said before.
So the Most High now he has a condition. God is not just all love. God has conditions for us being his people. So now he said if we will not walk in his law, go ahead.
So hearken.
And if we won't listen to the prophets, the teachers of the nation of Israel, go
whom I sent unto you, both rising up early and sending them, but ye have not hearkened. Then will I make this house like Shiloh, and will make this city a curse to all the nations of the earth.
So understand why we live in the ghettos and in the slums. Why we in the condition that we in, vacant buildings, broken down cars, lack of success, is because we don't hearken to the laws of God and we don't listen to his teachers. Instead of listening to the commandments being taught, we turn the television off, or we roll our windows up, or we just put our headphones in. The Most High said that he gonna make our cities a curse. And that's what we see. We see death and destruction in our communities. We see broken families. What else do we see? We see our children dying in the streets, babies having babies. All these things are cursed because we don't keep God's laws. All these things are cursed because when it's time to read the Bible, hear the prophets of the Lord, we ain't got time for it. But what have we grown to do as a nation of people? Get Jeremiah chapter 5. What have we done instead of hearkening to the words of the Lord our God? We're talking to the so-called black and Hispanics who are the Israelites. What do we do? So this is Jeremiah chapter 5, and we'll get verse 3.
The book of Jeremiah chapter 5 and verse 3. O Lord, Are not thine eyes upon the truth? Thou hast stricken them, but they have not
You
grieved.
see that the Most High has stricken us. How did he stricken us? He took away our nationality. Now we don't know who we are. Let's prove that. Get Isaiah chapter 1. Hold that. We're coming right back. This is Isaiah chapter 1, and we'll get verse 3.
The ox knoweth his owner,
So the Most High is going to give a similitude of something we can acknowledge. It says an ox knows his owner. What's up, brother? How you doing? We teaching that according to the Bible, the black and the Spanish, we the Israelites. And we got to come back to the commandments of God and stop manning up on judgments. What do I mean by manning up on the judgments? He caused our car to go out. We just go buy another one. We don't acknowledge that the Most High God destroyed our car. We catch a disease. We go try and find a cure. We don't acknowledge that God is the one that gave us disease. So we got the Most High, first of all, he took away our heritage. He took away our nationality. So it says the ox knoweth his owner. Go ahead.
and the ass his master's crib.
So then he chose a dumb animal, a donkey. It says it knows its master's crib. It knows where to go. Go ahead.
But Israel,
But the black and Hispanics, Native American Indians, the Puerto Ricans, the Haitians, Jamaicans, Guatemalans, the Panamanians, and all the people that's scattered throughout the four corners of the earth into the ghettos and in the slums, we ain't even consider that the Most High took away our name. Go ahead.
but Israel doeth not know, my people doeth not consider.
We don't even consider that we don't know who we are. That's one of the curses that's upon us. Go back to Jeremiah chapter 5 and pick up where you left off. But they,
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 5, and verse 3. Thou hast stricken them, but they have not
you
grieved.
see that the Most High is judging the nation of Israel. He's judging the black and Hispanics. He put us in the ghettos and in the slums. What did he take from us? Go to Deuteronomy chapter 8. Why haven't we grieved? Because we don't understand what we gave up as a nation. We had a land. We were stolen away from our land and brought here and put on the bottom. So this is Deuteronomy chapter 8 and verse 7.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 8, and verse 7. For the Lord thy God bringeth thee into a good land.
You see that the Most High brought the Israelites, the black and Hispanics, into a good land. Now, instead of a good land, we got the ghettos and the slums. We got the rags of the world. Go ahead.
A land of brooks of water.
We had brooks of waters. We didn't have to go to the YMCA to swim in chlorine that's destroying our skin. We had brooks of water. And what are these places anyway? Go to 2 Maccabees chapter 4. What is the YMCA? What is Gold's Gym? What is Planet Fitness? What is all these different workout places? What did the Most High call? Because in our land, he gave us everything we needed. So this is 2 Maccabees chapter 4. 2 Maccabees. 2 Maccabees chapter 4. Oh, no, I'm sorry. 1 Maccabees 1. We'll get it right there. And it should be around verse 18. So this is 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and 14.
The book of 1 Maccabees at Jerusalem, according to the customs of the heathen.
You see that? So, like the statement was made, the Most High gave us brooks of water. So that's a water source, right? It wasn't no Missouri water or American water if you stay in St. Louis County. The Most High gave us brooks of water, and then you could also swim. You didn't have to swim in chemicals. But now we go to the YMCA and all these different gyms when the Most High called all these places. Read it from the top.
The book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 1, and verse 14. Whereupon a place of exercise.
It's a place of exercise, of course, right? Go ahead.
at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen.
And they built it according to the customs of the heathen. So what do? They hooping it up. They basketballing, sports, playing football. What is it? The JFL. So now they teaching us all these different customs of the heathen. Now get 2 Maccabees chapter 4. So what is the customs of the heathen talking about? Let's find out. And is it a lawful thing to do according to God, the God of Israel? So this is 2 Maccabees chapter 4, and we'll jump in at verse 9.
The book of 2 Maccabees chapter 4, verse 9. Beside this, he to assign 150 more, if he might have license to set him up a place of exercise.
So here it is, that place of exercise again, a gymnasium, the YMCA, all these different clubs. Go ahead.
For the training up of youth.
And what are they doing? They training up the young men, the youth. JFL now, they starting at 4 or 5 years old, playing football, crashing into each other, giving each other concussions. They go there, can't even think straight or sit still because they got brain damage. Running up and down the court, what they do? Turn their ankles up. Turn their ACLs. Where's the army of Israel at? They playing sports. Where's the chief defenders of the nation of Israel? They somewhere in sports, in the places of exercise, being trained up after the customs of the heathen. Go ahead.
And to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochus.
And then they changed their name. Now they call themselves the New York Giants or the Carolina Panthers, or out of mockery, the Florida Seminoles. Well, wait a minute, the Seminole Indians or Israelites. So how you take these people land and change and then make mockery of their name? Go ahead.
Which when the king had granted and had gotten into his hand the rule, he forthwith brought his own nation to the Greekish fashion.
So what are they doing in these places? Greekish fashions. Go ahead.
And the royal privileges granted of special favor to the Jews by the name of John, the father of Ptolemais, who went ambassador to Rome for amity and aid.
Jump down to 12.
Verse 12. For he built gladly a place of exercise under the tower of itself, and brought the chief young men under his subjection.
So in this exercise, they bring the chief young men under subjection. Go ahead.
And made them wear a hat.
They make them wear a hat. What does this sound like? How about draft day? Draft day, you bring yourself in subjection and you put on the hat of the team that now you're going to subject yourself under. And you're going to follow their rules and regulations. Whether it's a helmet, whether it's a baseball cap, or whether it's a t-shirt, or a jersey, a uniform, it's all the same. Go ahead.
Now such was the height of Greek fashion, and increase of heathenish manners.
You see that? So now we're talking about sports. So we learning that sports, according to the Bible, is unlawful. It's a Greekish fashion. And we ain't Greeks, we Israelites. Go ahead.
The exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly rant.
And it was exceeding profaneness. Why was it exceeding profaneness? Jump down to 14.
Verse 14. That the priests had no courage to serve anymore.
So who is these priests? Let's go to Amos chapter 2. So what does sports do to the Israelites, the black and Hispanics? It caused great damage. But we're going to find out who these priests are. So this is the book of Amos chapter 2, and we'll get verse 11.
Amos chapter 2 and verse 11. And I raised up your sons for prophets.
So the Most High raised up the sons for prophets and what? Also priests. So now go to Exodus 19. So if he's raising up the sons for prophets, what else are they going to be called? What we read about, we read that according to the Bible, the God of Israel, who's the God of the so-called black and Hispanics, he's telling us that sports, these Greekish fashions, are unlawful, and we're not to be involved. So this is Exodus chapter 19 and verse 6.
And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests.
So we're supposed to be a kingdom of priests. But what happened with the priests? Go back to 2 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 14.
That the priests had no courage to serve anymore at the altar.
So now, what's wrong with our youth? Our youth ain't training up to be army men. What army? Not the army of the United States, but the army of Israel. Standing up, being chief defenders of the nation. How is it that when you read in the book of Maccabees, those men defended their nation? Every other nation is set up and will defend their nation. What happened with China? That's what happened with Trump. Trump was talking out the side of his neck, and the Chinese said, if you continue to offend our nation, then we're going to go to war. What happened when Trump disrespected the Arabs? The Iraqians. They said, if you continue to offend our nation, then we're going to go to war. The same thing with the Chinese, the Japanese, the East Indian. The only nation of people that's not standing up to defend themselves are the Israelites. That's because the chief defenders, our priests and prophets, they fallen into sports, getting hurt, getting destroyed. They stuck in Greekish fashions. And then when they get stuck in Greekish fashions, do you stay in the community or do you leave the community? You leave the community. And all that so-called money that they make, if they was really about their people, they don't spend one dime back where they grew up at. They don't fix the houses of their brothers and sisters. They don't set up schools teaching the commandments. And then when they see brothers and sisters teaching the commandments, they'd rather go donate money to Africa, and we ain't even African. We the Israelites. The Africans enslaved the Israelites. A black nation did enslave another black nation, but they weren't the same nation. The Africans enslaved the Israelites. And that's who we are. So now our people, when they get money or get into wealth, they don't donate back to their communities. They go send it to the nation that enslaved us. And now they give it to the new Egypt. Back to America, setting up charities. What happened with these charities? They just take the money and put it back in their own accounts. None of those charities is set up to benefit black and brown people. So look at how we destroyed. The chief defenders, the army of Israel, is somewhere caught up in sports, trying to live the American dream, and we ain't even Americans. And it is only a dream because you'll never get it, because the Most High God told us not to go after the ways of Egypt, where we dwell. So we in 2 Maccabees chapter 4:14.
That the priests had no courage to serve anymore at the altar.
So what is the altar? It says, so the young men, all the young black men and Hispanic men, Native American, Indian, Seminole, Indian men, they don't want to teach this Bible, because what did the priest do? The priest was responsible for the law. Get Malachi chapter 2. What is the priest's responsibility? So if God said the nation of Israel will be a kingdom of priests and kings, and the children was raised up to be prophets, priests, and kings, what would they be responsible for? This is Malachi chapter 2 and verse 7.
For the priest's lips should keep knowledge.
You see that? It says the priest's lips, so the young Israelite men, all the young boys, from the time that they could talk and on up until death, it's like their lips, what?
Should keep knowledge.
Should keep knowledge. What knowledge? Go ahead.
And they should seek the law at his mouth.
So they should have the law. The knowledge is the laws. It's the commandments of God. So instead of being raised up to teach the command, first follow the commandments and then teach them, they all going out to sports trying to chase money. And that's destroying our nation. So it says the priests, They don't want to keep the commandments. They don't want to be teachers. They don't want to be priests and prophets. They want to dribble a ball. They want to shoot hoops. They want to go out and tackle each other and hate one another because you play on a different team. They want to swing a bat. All these things the Most High said, because we walked away and because we keep manning up on our God, He judge us and we just look for the next fix. Or we look for a way out of it, but don't turn to our God. It says now our children in these places of exercise, now they don't even want to do the job that they was born to do. Go ahead. Back in 2 Maccabees, chapter 4. 2 Maccabees 4:14.
That the priest had no courage to serve anymore at the altar, but despising the temple.
They does now despise the temple. When we tell each other, our young men, to come keep the commandments, they don't want to do that. They want to go chase girls, extracurricular activity. They despise it. They hate it. Go ahead.
And neglecting the sacrifices.
And then they neglect the sacrifices. What sacrifices is it talking about? Let's get Romans chapter 12. Are we still keeping animal sacrifice? So are we neglecting the animal sacrifice as a nation of people, as being the Israelites? Let's see what sacrifices are being neglected in the nation of Israel by the so-called black men, because it starts with us. This is Romans chapter 12 and verse 1.
I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God.
So Paul is begging the Israelites. That's what the word beseech is. He said, I beseech you, therefore, brethren. Who's Paul, brethren? The Israelites. Go ahead.
By the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice.
So they're not neglecting the animal sacrifice. It said now we're supposed to present our bodies a living sacrifice. What does that mean? Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 6. How do we present, are the young men, and not just young men, but all men, how are they supposed to be making their life a living sacrifice? Let's get 1 Corinthians chapter 6, and we'll jump down to verse 18.
Flee fornication.
See that this is a sacrifice. The Most High said, flee fornication. What's fornication? Get the 7th chapter in the 1st verse.
Now concerning the things whereof ye brought unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman.
You see that that's all we care about. The so-called black and Hispanic man, all we think about and care about is the woman. Trying to get our rocks off, chasing up behind her, all around her, because the sacrifice that we got to make is flee fornication. So it says, nevertheless, it's good for a man to keep his hands to himself. Not walking through the club grabbing butts and you ain't supposed to be in the club. Not walking up and down the street finna jump out your skin because you see a woman with a big butt, which you ain't supposed to even be looking at. The sacrifice is flee fornication. Starting from the top.
The book of 1 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 1. Now concerning the things whereof ye brought unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman.
It's good for what?
A man.
It's good for what?
A man.
It said a man, not a little boy. Not elementary school. It starts in elementary school. Boyfriend and girlfriend, little kids holding hands, kissing and touching. Through middle school, through high school. All the young men are doing is chasing girls. Where the girls at? The Most High said the priests, who the black and Hispanic men are, they neglect the sacrifices. What sacrifices? Our lives. What's one of the sacrifices? Fleeing fornication. Go ahead.
It is good for a man not to touch a woman. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication.
So what's fornication? Touching and feeling, which lead to sex. Kissing, fondling, which all lead to sex. unlawful sexual acts, casually hooking up. What does casually hooking? What does that look like? Get Wisdom of Solomon 2. These are some of the sacrifices that we neglected as men. Because when you play sports, you go off to college, what they do? They put Becky in your face. They put 6 or 7 cheerleaders turning splits with mini skirts on. So all these things gird our mind away from the laws and commandments of the Most High, and it promotes fornication. What happens when the pro athletes, they leave home? Are they thinking about their wife? Or they think about the woman that's at home? Or they got 2, 3 women in the hotel room waiting on them? Fornication. These sports promote fornication. So this is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2, and we'll get verse 5.
The book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2, and verse 5. For our time is very shadow that passeth away, and after our end there is no returning, for it is fast sealed.
So now it has us thinking that life is short. When it comes time to make a right decision and a wrong decision, what do people say? Man, life too short. I gotta live today. I gotta do what I gotta do today and not worry about tomorrow. Life is short. Have fun, man. Sow your royal oats. What's that? Coming to America. And then after you sow your royal oats, come back and get married. And throw your bachelor party. Where is that in the scriptures? Dancing around strippers, having sex with as many women as you can because you feel like you're going to be tied down. Fornication. These are the sacrifices that the Black and Hispanic men supposed to be keeping and not neglecting. Jump down to verse 7.
Verse 7. Let us fill ourselves with costly wine.
So what do we do as men? We get the drink. We walk around with a cup. We go to the liquor store and get a couple bottles. Hey, sis, let me pour you a drink. Go ahead.
And ointments.
And then we put on what? Ointments. That's that cologne. We got to make sure we got our drink and we smelling good. Go ahead.
And let no flower of the spring pass by us.
And then let no flower of the spring pass by us. Ain't no young, pretty woman gonna get away. We gonna get them all. That's how the Black man think. That's how the Israelite man think. We ain't gonna let no chick pass by. We gonna knock them all down. And we gonna go from woman to woman to woman. Having casual sex. That's fornication. Go ahead.
Let us crown ourselves with rosebuds.
And then let us crown ourselves with rosebuds. A lot of our sisters don't even understand what they're doing. When they take these pictures with those filters on, with the flowers, right? When it says let us crown ourselves with rosebuds, that's a token that I hit you. That's a token that I knocked you down. So I got her rosebud, hers. And now wickedly today, they created a festival and they call it Mardi Gras. And what do? You reveal yourself and then they give you one. And now this sister, she got 5, 6, 7 different rosebuds around herself because she done flashed about 10 different guys. Sexuality. That's fornication. So these men, this is how we think. Instead of following the sacrifices, making our life a sacrifice, we neglect it. And we prove it because we're supposed to be keeping these commandments as it is written. Because that's why we was born. Go ahead.
Let us crown ourselves with rosebuds before they be withered.
Before they be withered, so the younger they are, the better. We trying to get them before they get up in the 50s, 60s, 30s, 40s. After they have children and we feel like, oh, their body old and withered. Look at the wickedness of our mind as Black men. Look what we've become to. Neglecting the sacrifices. Go ahead.
Let none of us go without his part of our voluptuousness.
Let none of us go without our part of voluptuousness. What's that? Sex. Now, according to this world, if you're a man and you're a virgin, you gay. You soft. You 16 years old in high school, and you ain't had sex yet, now everybody clowning you. Now everybody got something to say. Oh, do you even like girls? Look at our mind. Look how we train up our youth. You got to have sex as soon as you can. As soon as you can get a hard on, you got to try it out. It's voluptuous. No, it's fornication, what the Bible's calling it. So should we be clowning our brothers because they have strength? Of course not. Now let's get the 4th chapter. We're going to come back here. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 4, verse 1.
Better is it, the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 4, verse 1. Better it is to have no children and to have virtue.
What is that virtue? Virtue is strength. So our brothers and sisters that's in the adult years and still haven't had sex, the Most High said that's strength. So the movie that they made, 40-year-old version, was wickedness. Because who was 40 years old when they took a wife? How about our forefather Isaac? He was 40 years old when he took Anna, his wife, to marry her. He wasn't soft. He wasn't gay. Neither was he a punk. He was blessed of the Most High. Because him and that wife lived forever. And they gonna reign in the kingdom of God. So look at how we train up ourselves. It says, better is it to have no children, to go without sex, and to have virtue, the strength, and the ability to refrain yourself. Go ahead.
For the memorial.
Because it's called what?
The memorial.
It's a memorial. It's something to be remembered. Go ahead.
Thereof is immortal.
The Most High said for brothers and sisters, our young men and our young daughters, to grow up and stay virgins and not just casually have sex. The Most High said that's virtue, that's strength, that's a memorial. And then that action is going to be immortal. Because according to the law, let's see what happened. Now let's go to, I believe it's Leviticus 15. Let's see how God looked at it. Leviticus chapter 15, not 15. The priest. I got it. So Leviticus 21. Leviticus chapter 21, and we'll start at verse. Let's start at the top.
The book of Leviticus, chapter 21, and verse 1. And the Lord said unto Moses, speak unto the priests, the sons of Aaron.
So we already understand at this point who the priests of the Lord are. It's the men, the young men, as well as the old men. So according to the Bible, it says the priest. Now jump over to verse 13.
Verse 13. And he shall take a wife in her virginity.
So the priest was supposed to take a wife in her virginity. So we teaching that according to the Bible, ain't nothing wrong with young men and young women holding on to their virginity. Because the righteous women, they went after the priest. And if they righteous man, he couldn't even take you if you wasn't a virgin. So sisters should be hanging on to their virginity. Young men should be hanging on to their virginity. Go ahead.
A widow,
a woman that's already had sex and had a man and the relationship didn't work out. Because according to the Bible, the man actually died. But now, today, the man ain't dying. We're going to pick up and move on to the next one. We're going to just move on. So it says a widow, go ahead.
Or a divorced woman, or profane, or in harlot, these shall he not take.
You see that? So according to the Bible, the priest wasn't supposed to take nobody but a virgin. And if all Israel, all the men were priests, then that means everybody had to hang on to their virginity. Or else you will remain unmarried. So these are the sacrifices that the Most High is telling us we got to make. And that'll stop all the wickedness. That'll stop the children being fatherless. growing up destroying the neighborhoods, because it's the young men that's out here popping pistols. The older men at work. It's the young men that's stealing cars. Looking for keys, looking to see if you left your keys in it so they could jump in it and drive off. And then, in the process of doing that, some innocent child get killed, ran over. So the young men are doing all this. So if brothers and sisters hang on to their virginity and marry in the Lord according to Christ, then it'll stop all the wickedness that we dealing with. Because what is the Bible calling it? Get Tobit chapter 4. I make the choice to let somebody sleep with me, then I don't get married, because nobody wants used goods. Nobody's supposed to want somebody that somebody already had. It's supposed to strike firm. The law is supposed to teach us how we're supposed to live and what's acceptable. So if we as men come back to these laws, then it's going to shape up the communities that we live in.
So that's how it was. That's how it's supposed to be. All right. But we not, it's not like that now. And so many people, by the statement of the law, will be like, well, what do we do now? So what do you do now is you to teach your daughters to keep their legs closed. That's what you do now. Because when they open it, they're supposed to then become married. But according to the law at that time, they had to be, the priests of Israel, they had to marry a virgin, a woman that had never been touched by another man. And a high percentage of the daughters, the young girls now, have already fornicated or they headed into fornication. Yeah, pop his head, Mom. Go leave, get your head popped, son. You listen to your mother, man. Listen to your mom. Pull over and bring them to us. All right. Yeah, but because that what was that? Leviticus what? Yeah, Leviticus 21:14. That's to, because if she had did something outside of character, then she was going to be labeled a whore. Like read this, Deuteronomy 23:17.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 23 and verse 17. There shall be no whore of the daughters of Israel.
Right, so as soon as the man would realize that the woman had been touched, he'd be like, wait a second. He wouldn't even have to stay with that. She would be labeled a whore and put to death. You see? So how do we avoid this? Teaching our daughters coming on up, making sure that they stay away from the boys, making sure they stay away from bad examples of the people that have given their lives over to Hollywood, that show decadence and leotards and bikinis and all that kind of stuff, because that makes our daughters want to do the same thing. So you got to try and be a controlling type of household. You have to be a controlling type of household. You got to be disciplined. You have to be very strict upon your children. If not, then they'll give themselves over. It says, read it again.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 23 and verse 17.
And this is what you tell them. And then you actually have to show them this is what a whore looks like. This is what a whore does. Read.
There shall be no whore.
There shall be no whore. Read.
Of the daughters of Israel.
Out of all the daughters of Israel, out of all the people, not just in the midst, there shall be no whores. And not in Israel. Not in Israel. Because the law that he was bringing out was supposed to bring forth that if you did that, you can't get married then. You can't get married if you did that. You're going to be labeled a whore. And the same thing that the priestess was doing, that's the same thing they was teaching. The priestess was the Levites. So the same thing that they was doing, they was teaching those things to the other 11 tribes. So if the priest couldn't have a whore, or profane, meaning a wicked woman, the rest of Israel shouldn't want a whore or a wicked or profane woman. All right, so that's it.
Right, so let's go back to Wisdom of Solomon 4. In verse 1.
The book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 4 and verse 1. Better it is to have no children and to have virtue, for the memorial thereof is immortal, because it is known with God and with men.
You see that? So keeping your virginity, it says it's a memorial and it's known with God and with men. Go ahead.
When it is present, men take example at it.
You see that? So this is a sacrifice. It says when it is present, men and women, they take example at it. Go ahead.
When it is gone,
When it is gone, go ahead.
they desire it.
They in the nation of Israel. So we got to teach the sons and the daughters to come back and hang on to it. Because we need these examples in the earth. We need people to show our brothers and sisters that it can be done. You ain't got to just have sex because that's what everybody else doing. Hang on. So let's go back to Second Ezra. I mean, not Second Ezra, Maccabees. Second Maccabees, chapter sacrifices. So we'll jump back in at 14.
The book of Second Maccabees, chapter 4, verse 14, that the priest had no courage to serve any more at the altar, but despising the temple and neglecting the sacrifices.
You see that? So that was just one sacrifice that we mentioned that they neglected, fornication. So because of these sports and these places of exercise, we train the youth up to walk away from the examples they supposed to set. Right. 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 Yeah. And that's what the sports push. So now, and we said that in sports, what they do, you go up to college, they push the women in your face. Even in younger years, sports. And now it's went from just playing the sports to just strictly following after women, chasing up behind women. So we neglect these things all because the Most High gave Israel these things. The Most High told Israel not to do these things, but Israel followed them anyway. Because what happened in the gyms now? That's why the Most High shut them all down. You go to the gym, brothers go to the gym just to see women work out half naked. And now all the men want to be personal trainers so they can see the women work out half naked, twisted all up. You see? Go ahead.
Hasten to be partakers of the unlawful allowance.
So what was these sports? The Most High said it was an unlawful allowance. Go ahead.
And the place of exercise.
After the game of what?
Discus.
That sounds like one of your Olympic games. Discus. Now it just ain't discus. Now it's football, basketball, track. All these sports that the nations put men away from their responsibilities. But we got to come back out of these things and now acknowledge that these things are sin. And what is sin? Let's get 1 John chapter 3 and 4. We talking to the so-called black and Hispanics who are the Israelites. As being Israelites, we got to come up out of all the things that this world promote and come back and keep God's laws. So this is 1 John chapter 3 and 4.
Whosoever committed sin transgressed also the law.
You see that? Whosoever committed sin is the transgression, meaning the breaking or going against of the law. Oh, go ahead.
And ye shall know that he was manifest.
Now let's go to Leviticus 26. So if we what's the next step? As being God's chosen people, the Israelites, Leviticus 26 and 40.
If they shall confess their iniquity,
So now we confess that we was players, that we was into the sports, that we smoked the cigarettes, that we was into idolatry. Go ahead.
and the iniquity of their father.
And we have to confess the iniquity of our fathers. In order to confess the iniquity of our fathers, we got to know who our fathers are. And then we got to see and acknowledge the judgments that came upon our fathers for sin. And then know and believe that if we do the same thing, that we'll have the same result. Go ahead.
With their trespass, which they trespassed against me.
And then on top of that, we got to have the strength to say that our parents was wrong when they sinned. Big Mama dressed us up for prom, dressed us up for the school dance. We got to acknowledge that that was sin. Get Leviticus 19 and 29. Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 29.
The book of Leviticus, chapter 19 and verse 29. Do not prostitute thy daughter.
See that? So when our grandmothers and aunts and uncles did the makeup, did the hair pinned up, put the pendant on the arm, and kept the dress and dressed you up for prom, the Bible said we weren't supposed to prostitute our daughters. That's prostitution. Let the children go to the dance, prostitution, because at all those places, fornication happens. At all those places, that's where they get to touching and feeling. And then they come home and say, you know what, Mom, I think I might be pregnant. The Most High said not to prostitute our daughters. Go ahead.
To cause her to be a whore.
To cause her to be a whore. Go ahead.
Least the lamb.
So let's go back to what we just said. Leviticus 26 and 40. So we got to acknowledge that all that stuff was sin. What's another sin? Let's get Leviticus 21, because this is what grandfather taught. Leviticus chapter 21 and verse 5.
The book of Leviticus chapter 21 and verse 5. They shall not make baldness upon their head, neither shall they shave off the corner of their beard.
What did grandfather teach as they got older? How to shave. He took that, what was it, shaving powder, showed you how to mix it up. What do they do in the barbershops? They take you down to the barbershop Saturday morning, which is the Lord's Sabbath day, get you the fresh shape up and the lining, and then show you how to trim that beard. So we got to acknowledge the iniquity of our forefathers and say, you know what, that was a sin. I can't do that. So back to Leviticus 26 and 40.
The book of Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 40. If they shall confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers with their trespass, which they trespassed against me, and that also they have walked contrary unto me.
And we got to acknowledge that we walk in contrary unto God. When we mourn the birds, that's going against God. When we go into Sunday church, that's going against God. Why is that? Because the Most High never told the Israelites to go and worship him on the first day of the week in sun worship. It's the worship of the sun. That's what they call the Baptist religion. Where did we read the Baptist? He told the Israelites to keep the commandments as it is written. And keeping the commandments as it is written. What's up, brother? Come on, come get a flower, man. You got some time. All right. Right. Well, you got to make some time for the Lord, man. Because the Most High is sending pestilence, he's sending destruction in the earth. You know, you're going to definitely see him in person. And he going to ask you about the works. He's going to say, what happened when I asked you to come and hear my word? I understand. You know, but you gotta make time. We all gotta make time. So let's go back to that Jeremiah 26 real quick. Oh no, Jeremiah 5. Because this is what we're doing as Israelites. Jeremiah chapter 5 and verse 3. Let's start it at the top.
The book of Jeremiah chapter 5 and verse 3. O Lord, are not thine eyes upon the truth?
So Jeremiah is saying, Lord, are not thine eyes upon the truth? What's the truth of the Bible? The commandments. Get Psalm chapter 119 and 151. Psalm chapter 119 and 151.
The book of Psalms, chapter 119 and verse 151. Thou art near, O Lord, and all thy commandments are truth.
So Jeremiah is asking the Most High, is not his eyes upon the truth? Do he not know and understand the law that he gave Israel? Go back to Jeremiah. So the truth is the commandments. It's the law of God. Go ahead.
Thou hast stricken them.
So the Most High has judged us as a nation. He put us in the ghettos and the slums. He brought the curse upon us. He cursed our cities. Go ahead.
Thou hast, but they have not grieved.
But we ain't grieving. We just man up. We carry on about our day and we man up. The Most High burn our house down. We don't acknowledge that God burned that house down. We just go apply for Section 8. And then, oh, yeah, right. And we thank him because we're alive, but don't acknowledge that. Why'd you do this, God? What are you trying to tell me? It's a blessing that I'm still here, but we don't see that it was a curse that the house burned down. We don't change. We ain't changing the way we think. We ain't examining our actions. We just change our address. So the Most High is stricken in us, but we ain't grieved by it. He give us diseases. We go to the doctor and ask for a cure. As long as God don't give us cancer or HIV and herpes, we good. We're going to continue to just have casual sex. We're going to continue to smoke cigarettes. We ain't going to change until we get what they call the big one. And then we still don't humble ourselves, but we say we blessed. We ain't grieved. Go ahead.
Thou hast consumed them, but they have refused to receive correction.
See that the Most High has consumed us. How did he consume us? He took away everything that we had. This is what is it, Martin Luther King from Sarah all the way to Lucas and Hunt. forever used to be full of black businesses. You had everything you could name it. The markets, beauty salons, Israel, we supported ourselves. And now the Most High consumed that. Why? Because we refuse his correction. The city was a place to be. Every house had green grass. Every house was full of people. Cars and things like that. But what happened? You got a question, sis? You got some time to stand and listen? So let's go back now. Let's get Deuteronomy 8. So why ain't we considering that we've been consumed? Because what did our neighborhood look like? Deuteronomy chapter 8 and verse 7.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 8 and verse 7.
Jump back to the 6th chapter first. Then look at that. So Deuteronomy chapter 6 and look at verse 8.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse 8. And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thine hand, and they shall be as fortless between thine eyes. And thou shalt write them upon the post of thy house and on thy gates.
So it's talking about the law. The Most High gave us the commandments, and he said they're supposed to be frontless upon our eyes, and we're even supposed to write them on the post of our gates. Go ahead.
And it shall be with the Lord thy God shall have brought thee into the land which he swore unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give thee great and goodly cities.
You see that? So the Most High gave our forefathers great and goodly cities. Go ahead.
Which thou buildest not.
And we ain't did 1 ounce of work. We ain't nailed 1 2x4. We ain't put down 1 Hispanics great and goodly cities, and we didn't even have to work to put them together. Go ahead.
And houses full of all good things.
And he gave us houses full of all good things. Go ahead.
Which thou fillest not.
Which we ain't had to spend 1 dime. So the Most High took care of us. And now we just consume. Now at this point, we got nothing. He shut down all the black businesses. He burned down the houses. Why are we just manning up on our God when he gave us these things to beautify us? Now we just destroyed and we accepting that. We still refuse to receive correction, even though we see our state. But look where we came from. Go ahead.
Dig is not.
And we had wells dug, which we didn't dig. That was, what do you have in wells? A water source. It wasn't a water bill. It was as much as you could carry from the well back home. Go ahead.
And olive trees which thou plantest not.
And we had trees that we didn't have to plant.
Vineyards and olive trees which thou plantest not, when thou shalt have eaten and be full.
And we was full. So now go to the 8th chapter. What are we establishing? Because the Most High said, because the black and Hispanics refused to keep the law, refused to hear the prophets, he would make our cities a curse. That was Jeremiah 26. And then out in the 5th chapter, Jeremiah, the Most High said, he's consumed us. He's destroyed everything we got. But maybe we didn't understand what we gave up and why we should feel consumed. So we see in what God gave us in the beginning. He gave us great and goodly cities instead of cursed cities. And inside of those cities, what did he put? Deuteronomy chapter 8 and 7.
For the Lord thy God bringeth thee into a good land.
Hey, y'all brothers and sisters, y'all the Israelites, y'all got a land. And we reading about it. Go ahead.
A land of brooks of water.
We had a land of brooks of waters. Go ahead.
Of fountains and depths that spring out of valleys and hills.
We had fountains and depths. We had a beautiful city. It was the glory of all cities. Go ahead.
A land of wheat and barley.
Instead of the us being in the glory of all cities now they put the term on it called the ghetto. And we even soak that up. So the Lord consumed us, took away our goodly cities and put us here, and now we call it the ghetto. And we happy with that. We make the ghetto sound like it's something good. I'm going back to the hood, to the ghetto. We consume, the Most High didn't give us that. But He destroyed it because we disobeyed the law. Go ahead.
And vines and fig trees.
And He gave us vines and fig trees. Go ahead.
And pomegranates, a land of olive oil and the honey.
The Most High gave us the complete food source. It wasn't no Whole Foods. It wasn't no Snoops. It wasn't no Deer Burns. We got the real organic food right out of the earth. God gave us that. But He destroyed, He took it from us and consumed us. Because when it came time to keep the Sabbath day, what's that? We ain't got to do that. What is the Sabbath day? It's the 7th day of the week to where we supposed to keep it holy. How you doing, brother? Come on over. Come closer, man. You got time. You standing. You might as well come a little closer. Okay. We read, man, about the destruction, man. That's happened to our people, man. You know, we had the best of everything.
I know it's going to curse you through the Romans, bro.
Correct. So you know you Israel. What you doing about it? What you doing about it?
Wait, 144,000, baby.
Okay. So now check this out. Get is it 2nd Ezra 9? Because we all patiently waiting, but what's going to happen? What's prophesied to come while we patiently wait? This is 2nd Ezra chapter 9, and we'll get verse 3.
The book of 2nd Ezra chapter 9 and verse 3. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes.
So we wait patiently. The Most High is eventually going to bring earthquakes.
And uproars of the people.
And uproars of the people. Go ahead.
In the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. For like as all that is made in the world have a beginning and end.
So we wait patiently for this world to end, right? Go ahead.
And the end is manifest, even so the times also of the highest have plain beginnings and wonders and powerful works.
So the Most High is going to bring some powerful and wonderful works upon this world. Go ahead.
And endings and effects and signs.
And we're going to see effects and signs. So we understand Babylon is going to fall, right? It's gonna fall how though? Peacefully? It's gonna be war. It's gonna be destruction.
All nations will turn against us.
Yep. And who gonna be in the midst of those nations?
Listen to those nations, all nations.
No, but church, in any war, you have what they call innocent bystanders. You have casualties. The casualties they call is people that weren't supposed to get killed, correct? So in this war that we patiently waiting on, Israel gonna be in the midst of it. Bombs drop, they gonna drop everywhere. They ain't gonna not hit our cities, right? It's gonna hit everything.
All the islands out of their place.
That's true. So now the next part is what we want to hear. Go ahead.
And every one that shall be saved,
Everyone that's going to be saved, that's going to make it through this destruction, that's going to make it through Babylon falling, go ahead.
and shall be able to escape by his works,
And shall be able to escape how?
by his works.
By his works. So now I ask what you're doing about it, because now
I can do
we got to have works.
obey the commandment. Keep my Sabbath day holy.
Correct?
You know what I'm saying? Not buying out of these stores.
Got you.
You know what I'm saying? Not spending so on and so forth.
Got you. What else? That's good. That's good. That's a strong foundation. The Sabbath day. You know what I'm saying? Because that's a sign, right?
Yeah, the only thing I'm eating right now, I'm like church. Because we got
The fringe is on. So you read that commandment.
yeah, I know this shit.
Okay. So
The commandments, okay, out there.
no, now you do understand those linings too, correct?
All of them.
Okay. So what about women?
That's a deep subject right there.
Okay. Well, that's the subject that the Most High wants us to see. Listen. The Most High is going to give us always the things that we need to work on. Because if the Sabbath day ain't the problem, he ain't going to teach you about the Sabbath. He won't. Remember, we're going to be saved how? Read that part again.
And every one that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works.
By his works. The Most High see the Sabbath day works. He see the bird. You know what I'm saying? So now what else? What other works we got to bring forth? Let's get Ecclesiastes chapter 9. So now, women is always a deep subject when it comes to the so-called Israelite man, because men run out of their wits for women. Not even understanding that before the woman was created, Adam had a job, right? And in Adam's job, what did he do? Get that in Genesis 2 real quick, and we're going to come back to wisdom Ecclesiastes now. Check this out. And a lot of men don't even understand this, and they don't trip off this. So this is Genesis chapter 2, and we'll read verse 9.
And out of the ground made the Lord.
I'm sorry, verse 7.
The book of Genesis chapter 2 verse 7. And the Lord God formed the man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life.
So he gave him the commandments. He gave him the understanding of what to do, what he was supposed to do, right? So now jump over to
verse 15. And the Lord God took the man and put him into the garden.
You get what I'm saying? Because we understand that those trees was people. God, you didn't talk to an actual snake. He didn't talk to a snake. So in the garden, Adam's job was to command it and instruct it, right? Before who though? Before Eve was even created, Adam had a job to teach in the garden and to dress it. Go ahead.
And to keep it.
And to keep it, to keep everything in order. what people were supposed to be doing, tell them responsibility. So he gave Adam this responsibility before he gave him a wife. Go ahead.
And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat.
So we know this ain't talking about berries and fruits. This is talking about people. So every tree of the garden that I know with them, you can teach them. Go ahead.
But the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it.
So you mean to tell me that this tree right here got knowledge of good and evil? Hell no. So heck no, it's talking about people. So now I'm going to Ecclesiastes chapter 9. So how is it that man has fallen off of his high horse? It's because of the woman. So now pertaining to the woman, because we didn't understand how to deal with the woman. You get what I'm saying? We thought the woman was for a different purpose. Let me show it to you. So check this out. We weren't supposed to look at a woman in this fashion. Ecclesiastes chapter 9, about 25 and 21. Ecclesiastes 20, where a lot of men fall off because when they think about the woman, this is what they got in mind. Ecclesiastes 25 and 21.
Stumble not at the beauty of a woman.
Of course, God made the black woman, the Israelite woman, beautiful. It's his creation. He made the black man beautiful, the Israelite man beautiful, right? It said, but he said not to stumble at their beauty. Stumble meaning you fell off the path, right? You fell off dressing and keeping the garden. Go ahead.
And desire her not for pleasure.
The black man, when they think about the black woman, the Israelite woman, they only thinking about what?
Desire her not for pleasure.
They thinking about pleasure. The woman wasn't created for pleasure. Why was she created?
Most High made Eve to be Adam's better half.
Better see, let's word it. I get what you're trying to say. I get what you're trying to say. But when we use these words, then it help us calibrate the severity and how serious we're supposed to look at it. Because let's read it. Tobit chapter 8 and verse 6.
Thou madest Adam and gavest him Eve his wife for an helper.
For a what?
And helper.
So what would she need? What would Adam need help with? Basics of life in the garden. So you got children? So has it ever been a time to where you railed on it? Rail meaning you went completely off, right? Hey, hey, listen here, sweetie. After you do it, hey, listen here, sweetie. You gotta make sure that you don't rise up in frustration. You don't want to discourage the child. If I understand he was wrong, and we gonna listen to what I'm saying. I understand the child was disciplined, the child, but you gotta make sure that you don't discourage him by railing. because according to 1 Corinthians 5, God said no real is going to make it to the kingdom. So that better half is a helper in your rage and anger because Junior going off. Junior trying to buck up against you. You got to buck back in a fashion to where you got to show him that you the father and you the son. But all the extra additives, she's saying, remember, make sure we stay righteous. Make sure we have the patience to deal according to the scriptures with them, because if we don't, then we'll discourage the child. If we discourage the child walk away, we're responsible. So that better half that you saying is a helper, go ahead.
And stay,
because men have struggles too. What about a lot of times some men may struggle with money, how to spend the money, how to save it and pay the bills. So she's a state to say, you know what? I'll get the electric. You bring the money, I'll control the account, I'll pay the electric bill. I'll pay the gas bill. I'll make sure the car don't get paid. So that stay is an extra support outside of his mind. Because a lot of times man's mind will tell them something that's wicked too. You know, just like in a Sabbath day, right? Bills getting paid, but ain't no extra money, right? And if it ain't no extra money, they offering overtime on the Sabbath. He like, babe, we trying to get this bigger house. We're trying to get this new apartment. So then she come back and say, no, Exodus 20. She come back and then say, well, Isaiah 58. She come back and use this precept. Isaiah chapter 58 and verse 13.
Isaiah 58 and 13. If thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath.
If we turn away our feet, she's like, listen, babe, listen, honey. We supposed to turn our foot away from the Sabbath. Go ahead.
From doing thy pleasure.
Doing our pleasure, something that we like to do. Some men love to work. They'll work all day, every day. But the pleasure that he was seeking with that was extra money. He had adequate money, but he wanted extra money. She's like, no, you can't do that. Go ahead.
From doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight.
And then she said, well, wait a minute, we got to call the Sabbath a delight. We can't be covetous. We got to call it a delight. Go ahead.
The holy of the Lord.
And then she said, it's the holy of the Lord. If you go and work this 10-hour shift, so what for this time and a half? Let's make it even more interesting. Let's make it double time. You at $25 an hour, so that means in a 10-hour shift, you at double time, $50 an hour. That means in that one day you made $500. You like, babe, we can go on that vacation. You know, we can get the tires replaced. So you thinking of all these things that can be done with that money? She say, nope, it's the holy of the Lord. The woman was created for a helper and a stay. Now go back to Genesis. Let's see what came next. So she was created. So let's go to Genesis chapter verse 4. So this is down the line, right? She was created to be a helper and a stay. She wasn't supposed to be desire for pleasure, let's see that something eventually happened. Genesis 4:1.
And Adam knew Eve, his wife,
So Adam had sex with his wife,
and she conceived,
and she conceived.
and bare Cain,
Go ahead.
and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord.
So it was not the beginning creation of the woman. It was what to do what?
And Adam knew his wife, and she conceived.
She conceived. So now children are being brought forth. So we got it backwards as men. As men, we looking at Timothy said it. Get 1 Timothy 5. So, are you still with the woman? Yeah. Oh, good. All praises. All praises. So, when you did you lose your virginity to your wife? So we didn't understand it. So, go ahead.
And I was just before I even came into the word, I was in the world.
Right. Like a lot of us are. And now these things become these are our experiences to now turn right around and give back to the youth and say, don't make the mistake because this will happen and that'll happen, right? So now we still going through the precepts because you still got a job to do with the sons, with the nephews, right? All these men, all of us men here, we nephews to you. We ain't your son, but we your brother's son. And even the younger ones that we see, we still got a job to do, right? So now we got hung up on the wrong thing. So it's 1 Timothy, it might be 2. 1 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 9. So we got the woman to be help me. So beauty was never supposed to, of course, the Most High made the daughters of Israel beautiful. The so-called, all you so-called black women, you the daughters of Israel, you Israelite women. You understand? We the children of God, you the daughters of the Most High, looking at the wisdom and understanding, and it's going to say 1 Timothy.
With shamefacedness and sobriety, not with broaded hair or gold or pearls or costly array, but which cometh women professing godliness.
So women professing godliness. But let's not say they talking godly. Let's say they professing godliness in their actions, right? They doing the work, they doing it. So instead of stumbling at the beauty, we should have looked for the understanding, the righteousness that poured out. You get what I'm saying? And because stumbling at so we got it backwards as men. We want the pleasure, or we looking for pleasure, and we looking at the costly array, the plaited hair. You know what I'm saying? Let's see what it's supposed to show. First Peter 3. So this is what we should have been looking at. Instead of the beauty, the hips, dips, and fingertips. Instead of that, so 1 Peter chapter 3. First Peter chapter 3, and we'll get verse. We'll start at the top.
The book of 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 1. Likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word, they shall also may without the word be won by the conversation of the wives.
You see that? So we supposed to hear the conversation of sisters. And their conversation is supposed to be after the God of the Bible and not just looking at hips, dips, and fingertips. Because we thinking about pleasure. Go ahead.
While they behold your chaste conversation coupled with fear.
You're supposed to behold the chaste conversation, not in their face, but just from afar. They chaste conversation coupled with fear. Go ahead.
Whose adorning, let it not be that outward adorning.
And they adorning wasn't caring about the outward adorning. Clothes, what they got on, trying to show their shape, trying to have sex appeal. Go ahead.
Of plaiting the hair and of wearing of gold.
Ain't nothing wrong with the plaiting of the hair or wearing of gold. You gotta have some gold to get that girl. And when you get it, she gonna want some nice. Go ahead, but it ain't about that. Go ahead.
Or of putting on of a pearl. But let it be the hidden man of the heart.
It's supposed to be the hidden man of the heart. Go ahead.
And that which is not corruptible.
Which ain't corruptible. So when we look at women, this is what we're supposed to be focusing on. Because the woman was only created for a helper in the state. Pleasure came to replenish the earth. So as when it comes to the sisters, all men, we got to understand their purpose. Let it be the hidden man of heart, which is not corruptible. Go ahead.
Even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit.
But a meek and quiet spirit. What did God call?
Even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of God of great price.
It's a great price. So when we understand why the sisters were created for a helper and the state, this is the helper and the state that God was talking about. A chaste conversation coupled with fear, a meek and quiet spirit. They wasn't corruptible. They wasn't breaking the commandments, didn't care about the commandments. They wasn't bringing in a new doctrine. They wasn't letting some other doctrine be into their mind and cause them to go off. So now go back to Ecclesiastes 25 and 21.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 25, and verse 21. Stumble not at the beauty of a woman.
So then we ain't supposed to stumble at the beauty of women. Go ahead.
And desire her not for pleasure.
And we weren't supposed to desire her for pleasure. You get what I'm saying? So this is what we teach. And this is what we exhort. Because without these things, we're going to continue to put fatherless children on the planet. We're going to continue to have broken houses, broken families. You get what I'm saying? So now to add to the understand, add that to your understanding and add that to the work that you got to do. Because now all the young men that we see, all they're doing is chasing what? Chasing some tail. So now they got to understand, hey, listen, that ain't even for pleasure. That's for your health. That's when you get into them binds and say, you finna go hit the liquor store. She's like, nah, it'll be all right. Listen, the lights ain't off. We got a roof over our head. So what? We got to eat raviolis this week. It'd be nice to have a steak, but we're gonna be all right. Don't break that commandment. That's what they for. Don't break that commandment. We switch the roles around, and that's why we've been destroyed. Because we desire a woman for pleasure only, then what gets sent out to us? Ecclesiastes 26 and 3.
Which shall be given in the portion of them that fear the Lord.
So we're going to get the right sister when we fear the Lord. Now jump down to the 14th verse.
A silent and loving woman is a gift of the Lord. And there is
So a silent and loving woman is a gift of the Lord. So what type of man? A man is going to keep the commandments. Now jump down to verse 23.
a wicked woman.
So now the so-called black woman that we love to hate, loud, calling us niggas, telling us we ain't this, we ain't that, running up and down the street half naked, clamorous. That type of sister, because when you think about that kind of sister, when brothers deal with them, they only thinking about pleasure.
I ain't worried about the harlots on the earth. Something off in Deuteronomy talking about, it was basically talking about, because I understand the Israelite woman, all of that, what she's trying to go through, but you know what I'm saying, is where Babylon, all right, it's like, I'm trying to remember that, where is that? I think it's before the chariots come and the rising of the dead.
So check this out, Hebrews 10.
But that pretty much with the Israelite woman, that comes with commandments being what they step out of. Because, you know what I'm saying, nowadays it's harder for the black woman, you know what I'm saying, because they, ever since the, what was that movie? The dresses away. So folks like you got to order, so
Right.
it's harder. They can abide by the commandments.
Correct.
I got the understanding of all that.
Correct.
My thing is like during the fall of Babylon, it was like the fall of Babylon. I was trying to get the understanding where just before the my thing is all right. I got a confusion where the taking, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the, you don't want to be taken, right? You know what I'm saying? Or do you want to be taken? See, that's what I'm saying.
So how do you get that help, that answer? Check this out. Hebrews 10, and we'll get verse 25.
The book of Hebrews, chapter 10 and verse 25. Not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together.
See that? So check this out. It's also a commandment for the Israelites to not forsake the assembly. Assembly meaning an actual body, a congregation, to where we come together, learn, be taught this and that, this and that. So to teach Revelations about Babylon is fallen, Babylon is fallen, and I'll give you a precept to prove it. Daniel 2:44. So check this out. We understand Babylon is falling, but when Babylon is completely gonna fall, that's up to the Lord. And when the sky's gonna crack and you see the chariots, when you see the chariots, it's over. At that moment. But what matters is from that moment right now to get to that moment. Because we only gonna be saved by our works. Thus says the Lord, what are we doing? Because that's how we're gonna be judged by our works. So Daniel 2:44.
And in the days of these kings
So in the days of these kings, we living in the days of kings. Go ahead.
shall the God of heaven set up a king.
So the God of heaven set up a kingdom. So God right now is setting up the kingdom. And the way he's setting up the kingdom is teaching us how to rule. Right? Because in the kingdom, what are we going to do? Are we going to keep the laws or break the laws?
That's how the whole thing is gonna be ran. The whole thing is gonna be ran with
Exactly. So, but we got to have a perfect understanding of the commandments, how to apply, how to show mercy. We got to learn judgment. We got to learn mercy concerning the commandments. We got to learn when to enforce, because in the kingdom, we're going to have a responsibility. And that responsibility, get Isaiah chapter 2. Isaiah chapter 2, and we'll get verse, we'll start at the top.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 2 of Judah and Jerusalem. And it shall come to pass in the last days that to my all nations shall flow unto it.
So the mountain of the Lord is talking about the Israelites. And they're gonna be set up over all the other mountains and hills, which is the other nations. And all these nations are now going to come and sit at the feet of the Israelites and be taught. Right? Go ahead.
And many people shall go and say, come ye, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths.
So why is it that we have to get a perfect understanding of the law? Because when those nations come and say, let us teach them our ways and walk in it, when they don't, what has to happen? A judgment.
I got a different understanding from the other nations. You know what I'm saying? Just like Esau,
Mhm.
they're gonna be eradicated from the earth. My understanding.
Correct.
Vision Obadiah, he get that off. You know what I'm
Correct.
saying? Same thing with what's the Mongoloids? They know, yeah, 'cause they all gonna be like you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Basically, because they in captivity.
But you're going to have to know how to rule your slaves. Because sin ain't going to be in the kingdom. So when they try and come with, they're going to have to.
So it ain't gonna be barbaric like they did us. You know what I'm saying? Like
It ain't going to be a need to be. Because they're going to fear. And when they disobey, the judgment going to stand. So that's why we have to be perfectly keeping of the law, because if they come with some nonsense, destroy it. So when God is setting up a kingdom, he's teaching us, these kings, the God of heaven, shall set up a kingdom. The way he's setting up the kingdom is teaching us how to apply the laws, statutes, and commandments, and how to enforce so that we can enforce them upon all the other nations and root out all wickedness. But if we ain't keeping the commandments perfectly, according to the understanding that the Father give us, then that means in that time we'll sin again. So it ain't a necessity to teach Babylon is Babylon is falling, how and when, and by what way. We got to come back to the laws.
It gives the time, well, and they don't give the time because they kind of change the time, but they give the time for the era of day that happens. Like, you know,
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But they don't mind or
Right.
like that. But and it's, my thing is this.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? You got younger brothers and sisters, right? You know what I'm saying? That let's say they trying to make their transition.
Yeah.
They transition over. Let's say their thing is okay. They gonna start off small. Let's stop messing with the swine. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? My thing is, let's say judgment was to come when they was making that transition over. You know what I'm saying? For a day. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to quit swine. They messed up a few times. Then my thing is, do they go through the wilderness?
As far as
Because people got to go through the wilderness again. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
let's go to Matthew 20, I believe.
Because I'm thinking like, dang, what
We're
is
in the
that?
wilderness now. This is the wilderness. So and I'm gonna show it to you. So this is Matthew. Let's see. 26.
After the fact. So,
Matthew 27. So we're in the wilderness now, and I'll prove it. So we're gonna start there at verse 27. So we get John 5 and verse. We start at 24.
The book of John, chapter 5 and verse 24. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that heard my word and believeth on him that sent me hath everlasting life, and shall not come into condemnation, but is passed from death unto life. Verily, verily, I say unto you, the hour is coming, and now is, when the dead shall hear the voice of the Son of God, and they that hear shall live.
So it's talking about Christ coming and teaching. The dead is talking about those that are dead in sins and trespasses. They're going to hear the voice of Christ and they're going to live. They're going to now live following the life of Christ. Go ahead.
For as the Father have life in himself, so have he given to the Son to have life in himself, and have given him authority to execute judgment also, because he is the Son of Man.
So Christ has the authority to execute the judgment of God. Go ahead.
Marvel not at this, for the hour is coming,
So the hour and time is coming.
and the which all that are in the grave
All that are in the graves, our forefathers that sleep. All those that's died before us, go ahead.
shall hear his voice,
They're going to hear the voice of Christ. Go ahead.
and shall come forth they that have done good unto the resurrection of life.
They that have, so the dead that's in the graves is going to wake up. And they that have done good, they're going to resurrect unto life, right? Let's see what that entails. Go to Revelations 20. No, he just So Revelation chapter 20, and we'll get verse 1.
The book of Revelation, chapter 20, and verse 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand.
So this is the angel that had the key to the bottomless pit. It's talking about the lake of fire. Go ahead.
And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan,
Go ahead.
and bound him.
That resurrection that you're talking about. So Satan was bound for 1,000 years. Israel, the ones that made it, that was resurrected unto life, or in the kingdom.
4. And I saw thrones, and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Christ, and for the word of God, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years.
So these are the ones that resurrected unto life. The first resurrection, right? So the first resurrection was all those that obeyed and didn't lie, but they followed the Christ, right? So now, and they reigned with Christ 1,000 years. Go ahead.
But the rest of the dead,
The rest of the dead, right? So who's the rest of the dead? Go back, flip back to John 5, and we was at verse 29.
John 5 and 29, and shall come forth they that have done good.
Started from the top again.
The book of John, chapter 5 and verse 29. And it shall come forth they that have done good unto the resurrection of life.
So that's the ones that's resurrected with Christ 1,000 years. Go ahead.
And they that have done evil,
And still dead. During this 1,000-year process, they have not resurrected yet. Go ahead.
lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished.
So they ain't lived yet. They still in the grave until the 1,000 years is finished. Go ahead.
This is the first resurrection.
Go ahead.
Blessed and holy is he that have part in the first resurrection. On such the second death have no power, but they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. And when the 1,000 years are expired,
When the 1,000 years are expired, go ahead.
Satan shall be loosed out of his prison.
So Satan gonna be loosed out of his prison. Who's that talking about? The Europeans, the Edomites. They gonna try and rise up. Like Ezekiel or Malachi 1, when the Most High said he was going to destroy, it was going to be called the border of wickedness. In his mind, he said, oh, we're going to rebuild. So they rebuilt. And that's why they call it the Renaissance era. But the Most High said in this time, that same pride he's going to have, the Most High is going to allow him to be loose for another purpose. In his mind, he's going to take things back over. But let's see what happened. Go ahead.
When the 1,000 years were expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison and shall go out to deceive the nations.
So he's going to try and deceive the nations that's in captivity under us. So he'll try and start a rebellion. Go ahead.
Which are in the four corners of the earth. Gog and Magog to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is at the sand of the sea.
So they're going to try and rise up to battle. Go ahead.
And they went up on the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about. And the beloved city, and fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them.
So here it is. They're going to come up against the camp of God, the saints of God, and it say fire came down and devoured them. So this is Esau and his so-called rebellion. Go ahead.
And the devil that deceived them,
so Satan,
was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone.
So he's going into the lake of fire and brimstone. So the Edomites do get wiped out. From what we see here in Revelation, they still dead. They still.
And the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever.
So he gonna get destroyed, and the other nations that humble themselves, they're gonna be in captivity and they're gonna die to death too. But at least they get to live in captivity under the Israelites. Go ahead.
And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heavens fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead.
So here we go to dead. Now the ones that have to be woken up that did evil. Go ahead.
Small and great.
Small and great. Whatever position you think they might have had. You would say the small would be the people that stay in our communities, right? And then the great would be the rich and famous, right? Go ahead.
Stand before God.
So now they got to stand before the Most High. Go ahead.
The books were open.
And now the books is going to be open. What book you think that is? The book of the actions of every man and woman's life. Because it is a record being kept. Go ahead.
And another book was open, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books, according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it.
So this is them rising. The sea gave up the dead which were in it.
And death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them. And they were judged every man according to their works. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire.
So you understand that? So you had the righteous Israelites rise and reign with Christ for 1,000 years. After the 1,000 years, Esau tried to rise up, got destroyed, and he got thrown into the lake first, the nation of Edom. And then you get the rest of the nation go back to humble themselves, and then the ones that were still dead that committed evil, now it's their time to rise, and then they see the second death. So that's true. You get what I'm saying? And that does happen, But right now, the Most High is telling us, a lot of people is focusing on, but what is the information that's going against Psalms 15? And verse 1.
The book of Psalms, chapter 15, and verse 1. Lord, who shall abide in thy tabernacle?
So now David is even asking the question. He said, oh Lord, that first resurrection, let's say that. Because the tabernacle of the Lord is the kingdom of heaven. And the kingdom of heaven comes from the first resurrection. So he said, who shall abide? Who's going to be there? Whose name? And all the righteous brothers, Abraham, where you at? I'm here. Sarah, where you at? I'm here. And all the righteous brothers and sisters, they come in by name. So who's going to be on that list? Go ahead.
Who shall dwell in thy holy hill? He that walketh uprightly.
He that walketh uprightly. Well, how do we understand what's upright? Get Job chapter 32 or 34, 32. Stay with me, dog. A few more. You gotta go?
Yeah, I'm supposed to be on that like hour.
Oh man, one of the Most High gave you something that something you was looking for.
Hey man, I like how y'all doing y'all thing out here. See that I'm inspired by that. I like it. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
I came up here. I listen to a whole other camp. I'm IUIC. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. But I still want to hear where you coming from and see how you run.
But you are. You teach the wife, right? So that's teaching.
Both in the process of learning. You know what I'm saying?
That's teaching them, even in your perspective order. You know what I'm saying?
Like that transition, applying stuff to our lives. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't wake up just like you smoke cigarettes every day, all day. Then you hear the truth and you come into the word. It's going to be hard just to, cold turkey, really. It's hard just to cold turkey. So it's just like the little steps you got to take.
Dealing with that first resurrection on how we get there. Go ahead. Because it says, who shall abide them that walk it uprightly, right? Go ahead.
And working righteousness.
And working righteousness.
And speaking the truth in his heart.
And they speak the truth in their heart, meaning the truth in our heart is the commandments been in our mind. So if it's in our mind, then it's going to pour out of what? Our mouth, and then it's going to follow with our actions. So those are the ones that's going to be there. But the thing that you got to remember, you got to be careful with listening to a bunch of different people.
That's another thing. I'm very keen on listening to people when they preach off their books, right? You know what I'm saying? And a very important job is what I see you doing. You know what I'm saying? Now, you got some people, other camps and whatever, you know what I'm saying? They interpret it the wrong way. Or they'll change raindrop into a river.
They'll push their agenda. They'll push their agenda.
Right. It ain't precept upon precept.
Right.
So that's what I was.
So now check this out. Matthew 7 and verse 21.
The book,
16.
the book of Matthew, chapter 7, and verse 16. Ye shall know them by their fruits.
So the thing that you got to do is you got to find somewhere to settle. Settle in, learn, be taught in a organized situation, because remember, Christ said, where two or three are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst of them, right? And the Most High in the nation of Israel, when you read Ephesians 4, he set up prophets, apostles, evangelists, and some ordinary teachers. So he set brothers in positions to be the help that other brothers and sisters need. You get what I'm saying? So you got to actually get in somewhere and then try men by their fruits. Because the same way that a brother speaks, he should be doing. You get what I'm saying? And that's how you're going to find the true disciples of Christ, the true of the Lord, because it's things that you don't see that somebody else got to show you. That's what Job said, that which I see not, teach thou me. That's what we pray. Lord, help me when I don't understand. Give it to me. If I make a mistake, show me, teach me. But how does the Lord do that? Does he speak out of the sky personally, or does he send another brother? So we need those brothers to be in our lives personally so we can pick up the phone. When you have trouble with the wife, a righteous brother, he ain't even gonna focus on the wife. You know why? He gonna focus on you. But what did you do? Because she gonna do what she gonna do. But what was you supposed to do? Because our wives respond off of how we deal. So in any wise counsel that a brother, he's gonna definitely deal with you first. How did you speak to her? How did you say it? Did you show her the scriptures? Did you apply the scriptures? Did you listen when it was her turn to talk? You know what I'm saying? Because as men, we got to do everything first. We got to set the example. So in order to get that, first,
The book of 1 John, chapter 1, and verse 6. And we say,
5.
1 John, chapter 1, and verse 5. This then is the message which we have heard of him, and declare unto you that God is life, and in him is no darkness at all. And we say that we have fellowship with him.
So if we say that we have fellowship with him, that's with the Most High Christ,
and walk in darkness.
continue to walk by ourselves. Continue to walk in the understanding of our mind. Go ahead.
We lie and do not the truth.
Because without a help, we grow to be self-righteous. And if we self-righteous, it's really darkness and not righteousness, because it takes the spirit of the Most High and another brother to show each and every brother, thus says Lord. Because the Most High have a plan for us, when in our mind we got our plan for us. So that's what it takes for us to fellowship and not to continue to walk in darkness. Go ahead.
But if we walk in the light as he is in the light,
But if we walk in the light, in the commandments, the same way that Christ walked in the Father's commandments, go ahead.
we have fellowship.
We have fellowship. Another word for fellowship is what? How about friendship? Can you be friends over the phone? No. Because you got to prove that friend. You got to see, is this a friend that's really out for my benefit? Because that's how a lot of people get caught up. Yeah, but his benefit, you're gonna see your benefit in his act because he ain't gonna be stealing. So that does nothing but continue to inspire you to continue not to steal. If he don't hate a brother, that inspires you to continue not to hate a brother. It's hard to do these things without seeing a person's actions. That's what we're getting at. So when it says ye should know men by their fruits, you gotta get somewhere to where you can put eyes on a person and see, are they saying and doing not, or are they saying and doing? And if they saying and doing, that's some fruit you can eat from. Go ahead.
But if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship one with another.
So we have to have fellowship. If you gonna walk in Christ, which Christ is the truth, professing Christ ain't the truth. People say they in the truth and still sin. Christ is the truth. Christ is without sin. So how we gonna be in the truth and still sin? We still in the world. We have not repented. So being in the truth is being in Christ, following Christ. I understand it's baby steps, it's growing, it's getting better every day, but willful sinning, you ain't in the truth. So it says that walk in the light, we have to have fellowship one with another. Why? Go ahead.
The blood of Christ.
And the blood of Christ, which was his life. Because what he did in his life caused him to spill blood. So we're supposed to look at the example of Christ in another brother, or for your wife in another sister. You want a fellowship because it's things you can't teach your wife. It's things that she has to get from another sister. That's what Titus 2 is about. The elder women teaching the young sisters have a place in this truth. You get what I'm saying? That's why it says whose daughters they are. They daughters of Sarah, right? As long as they be afraid without any man. So they look at Sarah's life and they follow Sarah's life. So they will look at other sisters and be taught by other sisters how to show up in fellowship, wherever that may be, as long as they keeping the commandments in Christ. You have to, because when you do that and not until you do that, go ahead. It says what?
The blood of Christ, his son, cleanses us from all sin.
So we ain't gonna be cleansed from all sin until we actually fellowship. We get somewhere and we allow the Spirit of the Most High to show us and teach us how to walk. You get what I'm saying? So make time. You got the flyer, and information is on there. If you want to come sit in. We got we on YouTube, Facebook too. Most definitely, all praises. Send up prayers, man, and see to it so that Satan don't come in and try and take away the fruit that's sown, man, the seed. All right. So we had what's up, bro? You got a question? Don't be afraid. Ask. We here for you, man. Go ahead. I got sisters in here. Come a little closer. We ain't gonna bite. I understand the 6 feet movie, but yeah. This world is messed up. Do you know why it's messed up? Let me show you why. Uh, let's go to Isaiah 42. And let's talk about a few things that's messed up in the world, right? Okay. This is Isaiah chapter 42. And we'll start at verse. And let's start at verse 21.
Book of Isaiah, chapter 42, and verse 21. The Lord is well pleased for his righteousness' sake. He will magnify the law and make it honorable.
So do you have you ever read the Bible? Okay, so you do understand that in the Bible there's laws like thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not kill. Shalom. You heard of that before, right? So the Most High said he would magnify the law and make it. When you magnify something, you blow it up. You make it huge, right? It says to make it honorable. Go ahead.
But this is a people robbed and spoiled.
So according to the Bible, we the Israelites. We God's chosen people. You're not black. It ain't the color of your skull cap or the church. So our God-given name is the Israelites. Black is a color in the crayon box. It is not a nation of people. So as being the Israelites, the Most High said we got robbed and we got spoiled. Go ahead. Different traps here in the country that we in, as well as the country where the rest of our brothers and sisters are scattered, right? Go ahead.
They are hid in prison houses.
They are what?
They are hid in prison houses.
So that's something that's messed up about the world. Our brothers and sisters being stuck in prison houses. And they giving time to where they ain't never getting out. You know what I'm saying? And so according to this world, they say there ain't no room for repentance. You break judge. That's okay. Because Christ said with what judgment you meet, it should be measured unto you. So they gonna get it, but they gonna get it double. So our people are hidden in prison houses. Why though? Do you know why? Let's jump down to verse 25. 24.
Verse 24. Who gave Jacob for a spoil?
So who caused us to be spoiled? Who caused us to go into captivity? Who caused us to be gunned down at the hand of the nations? Who caused us to be hid in prison houses? Go ahead.
And Israel to the
That's in the condition that we in as a people, God did. Why did God do it? Go ahead.
He
have sinned. So the reason that we're in the condition that we in, the reason that is so much messed up stuff happening in the world is because we sin. It's because we're breaking God's law. You know what I'm saying? Do you know? So I'm going to show you one of God's laws. Let's go to... You go to the barbershop? It's been a while. Can you grow a beard? Do you cut it off? You shave it down something to look cool? So let me show you that. This is Leviticus 19 and verse 27.
Ye shall not round the corners of your heads, neither shalt thou mar the corners of thy beard.
So let me paint you a picture. You know what I'm saying? Shape you up, cut you, fade it out, and then what's the last thing he do? He take those liners and what? He rounds the corners. Everywhere a corner is, he does something to it. He rounds it. So he alters the natural shape of it. When the Most High said, what?
Ye shall not,
He said, ye shall not to do it. Shalom, brother. He said not to do it. Go ahead.
ye shall not round the corners of your head.
It's gonna stop where it does. Does the hair on your face, does it grow up and over your eyes and stuff? Or it stops naturally, right? The Most High said we're supposed to let it naturally stop. He didn't say change the shape of it. That's a custom that we got. So that's a law you got to keep. Go ahead.
Neither shalt thou mar the corners of thy beard.
Now you can't take that beard and cut it off. It's okay to shape it down. If it's big, you want to make it a little smaller, neat, that's fine. But to now alter it, change the shape of it, we can't do that either. The Most High said not to do it, so that's a law. And now they have created a license to break God's commandment, and they call him a licensed barber. So all our brothers that's barbers that's doing that, marring the corners, putting the lines and the designs, that's part of the reason that brothers go into prison houses. That's part of the reason that we're in the ghettos and in the slums. That's part of the reason that we got vacant houses, broken families, right? So now you know that law, now so you don't add to the destruction of our people. Now you got to keep that. You don't want to be part of the problem. You want to be part of the solution. So now another law. Let's go. You heard about the Sabbath day, right? You go to church on Sundays? Okay. Let's get Exodus chapter 20.
Remember the Sabbath day.
So God says, remember the Sabbath day.
To keep it holy.
To keep it holy.
6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God.
So God says he gave us 6 days to labor, to do everything we need to do. He said, but what day?
But the seventh day
is 7th day. So we can all count, right? What's the first day of the week? According to the calendar. The first day of the week is Sunday, right? So, if Sunday is the first day, then it cannot be what day? The 7th day. It can't be both. It said the 7th day is what?
The 7th day is the
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So what day is the 7th day? Saturday, today.
That's right.
Today. So that's the day we're supposed to keep. We ain't supposed to go to church on Sunday. We're supposed to have it on Saturday. That's the day we have the holy convocation. So now you got to get out of sun worship. Don't you see on the sign when you pull up to church, sun worship? Is it after God? When God ever tell us to worship the sun? He told us to worship him and him only. Shall we serve? So You got to come out of Sunday worship. Not only because the I said the seventh day, but what laws do they teach in Sunday church? Not one. They say, come as you are, but you go home and get judged. You go home and get your house broken into. You go home and your car break down. You go home and get cancer. But you ain't got to keep no law. See how we being tricked? Who set up those churches? Our oppressors. 147 and 19. Show you this. Because in church, they also teach that God loves everybody, right? That this Bible is for everybody, right? Psalm chapter 119 and verse 147, I'm sorry, and 19.
He showed his word unto Jacob.
So this is David. David was the king of Israel, right? He was of the tribe of Judah. Okay, so he has the law, right? So now, this is Psalms 147, 19. David is saying, God showed his word unto who?
Jacob.
Go ahead.
His statutes and his judgments unto Israel.
The statutes and judgments are in this book. From beginning to end, you have statutes and judgments. So he showed that and gave it to who?
Israel.
To Israel. Go ahead.
He have not.
It says what?
He have not.
That means God did not. Go ahead.
Dealt so.
He didn't give these things. Go ahead.
With any nation.
He didn't give them to no other nation. So if God didn't give this Bible to no other nation, how was God for everybody? We've been lied to, haven't we? You see, a lot of the things that we hear in the world that don't line up with what the Bible actually say, that's because when you go in church, they read one scripture and do this. And talk, teach, and dance, and do all of this, right? Sing to pass time. And they don't deal with the law. Besides this, and when it was time to get into the book, get Nehemiah chapter 8. Let's see if they sang and danced and played the drums and the organ. Now, of course, you had instruments and music at the feast days and things like that, the high holy days. But let's see how they dealt. So this is Nehemiah chapter 8, and we'll get verse. I started. So Nehemiah chapter 8, and we'll get verse. Let's start at 3. Nehemiah 8 and 3.
The book of Nehemiah chapter 8 and verse 3. And he read therein before the street that was before the water gate, from the morning until midday.
So, actually, let's start at the top. Nehemiah 8 and 1.
The book of Nehemiah chapter 8 and verse 1. People gathered themselves together as one man into the street that was before the water gate.
So this is the gathering. When the people gathered themselves together, go ahead.
And they spake.
When they got in the, you can call this church, right? So they spake to Ezra the scribe and said, bring the book of the law of Moses. Go ahead.
Which the Lord had commanded Israel.
Which the Lord had commanded to Israel. Jump down to 3.
Verse 3. And he read therein before the streets that was before the water gate, from the morning to midday.
So let's see. So when he went into the book of the law, it says he read therein from morning unto midday. It says they read what? The book of the law, or did they sing? They read the scriptures. They went into the Bible from morning until midday. They didn't sing and dance and do all of that, jumping around, hooping and hollering. They read in the book. Go ahead.
Before the men and the women and those that could understand, and the ears of all the people were attentive unto the book of the law. And Ezra the scribe stood upon a pulpit.
So Ezra the scribe did stand upon a pulpit that was wood to be a part of. Because if you got a sea of people, if you got people, the nation of Israel was a huge nation. If a portion of the nation of Israel could stand right here from the grass and take up the space all the way to that building. So the people standing back at the building, if I'm standing here, you got tall people, short people, right? Can they see who's talking? No, they couldn't. So Ezra had to stand up above the people so everybody could see him. That's the pulpit. That's why they created the pulpit. To be seen so the people could see who was talking. Not for some high-mindedness like the church created. You get what I'm saying? Go ahead. Jump down to 5.
Verse 5. All the people stood up, and Ezra blessed the Lord, the great God, and all the people answered, Amen.
Jump down to verse 7.
Verse 7. Also Joshua and Benaiah and Sherebiah and Zaman and Akab and Shabbatha Adonijah and Messiah and Peter and Azariah.
All these different helpers that they're helping Ezra teach the Bible, right? Go ahead.
Caused the people.
So as they read from morning until midday, they caused the people
to understand the law.
To understand the law.
And the people stood in their place.
So in the church setting of the Bible, caused them to get the sense thereof. And they read from morning until a length of time. They dealt in the book. They didn't do all this other nonsense that they doing. And then you get the so-called minister read one precept and talk for the rest of his time about his in the scripture. That's because that's what the Roman Catholic Church set up to be done. But we ain't Romans. And we understand that the Romans got nothing to do with this book. They ain't supposed to read it, they ain't supposed to teach it, they ain't supposed to touch it. So according to this Bible, the Israelites, the Black and Hispanics, they supposed to deal in the law on the seventh day, which is Saturday, and not Sunday. Sunday worship came from our enemies when the council, what they called Nicaea, which was a European, changed the Sabbath day. He went and got instead of the 7th day. Can he do that? No, he cannot. You can go and change God's law. You can do that. Man can do that. God's finger. Who else's finger was there? Just his own. So what should we do? We should follow God and not man. So we should not be going to church on the first day of the week when the Bible clearly states the 7th day. We got to follow God's commandment and not man's allowance, because man can't give us commandment. You get what I'm saying? So these are reasons that all the nonsense, all the things that's happening to our people. Because when it comes to thus says the Lord, we do something different. Now, do we have to keep the Sabbath day today still? Of course. Do you know how to keep it holy? How? Let me show you. All right? So let's get Exodus 34:16. So we know that the seventh day of the week, which is today, right? But when does day start? Did it start this morning when we woke up? No. Leviticus 23, real quick. Leviticus chapter 23, and we'll get verse. Let's see, no, split. Yeah, 23 in the last precept. So this is Leviticus 23:32, last precept.
From evening unto evening shall ye celebrate your Sabbath.
All right, so from evening unto evening shall you keep your Sabbath. You get what I'm saying? So the day starts at evening, not in the morning. It starts with darkness. In the beginning of creation, it was darkness. And he said evening and the morning was the first day. Then he said evening, which came first, and the morning was the second day. Then the evening, which came first, and the morning was the third day. So the day starts at evening, and not in the morning when the sun rises up. Neither does it start at midnight. You get that because the nations, through captivity, changed it. Day night, when the sky is black and the light is gone, that day has started. The seventh day has started. So when that comes, now Exodus 16. So this is Exodus chapter 16 and 35.
The book of Exodus, chapter 16 and verse 35. The children of Israel did eat manna.
16:23.
The book of Exodus, chapter 16 and verse 23. And he said unto them, this is that which the Lord hath said. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath.
So this is the day before the Sabbath. He's saying tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath. Go ahead.
Unto the Lord, bake that which you will bake today,
So
that ye will see.
So that's boiling. Go ahead.
And that which remaineth lay over up for you to be kept unto the morning.
Right. So on the Sabbath, they now get Exodus 35 and 3. So it's no cooking. On the Sabbath day, you cannot cook. No baking, no boiling, no microwaving. But can you still eat? You can eat a cold cut sandwich. You can eat salad. You can eat cereal, fruit. You just can't warm food. You can't cook neither can you be slick because of technology and say, well, I'm going to just stick it in the microwave. No. So, now this is Exodus 35:3.
Ye shall kindle no fire throughout your habitations upon the Sabbath day.
So that's dealing with cooking, so no cooking. So now, let's get Nehemiah 10:31. So, like the fruit you got, boom. A piece of fruit on the Sabbath day. Yep, salads and stuff, just can't cook. It's not, remember, the Most High is about obedience. So when he commanded us, he told us what to do and not to do, he didn't tell us according to how we feel. He said, do it or get judged. And it's not hard. Because
Nehemiah chapter 10 and verse 31. And if the people of the land bring ware or any victuals on the Sabbath day to sell,
so if the people of the land bring ware or any victuals on the Sabbath day to sell. So the people of the land will be the owners of White Castles, the owners of McDonald's, Rallies, the gas stations, Walgreens, Family Dollar. So if they bring ware, clothing, or food, or nice gadgets, because right now it was clothing and food, but now they sell more than just clothing and food. When?
on the Sabbath,
on the Sabbath day, and what are they trying to do?
to sell
They're trying to sell
him on the Sabbath day.
and we would not buy it of before. So what you want for Saturday, you gotta go, because there's no buying and selling, no cooking, no buying, and verse, it should be verse,
The book of
right? So if you're not working, be looking for a day off. The Lord gave us a